The Silent Discovery. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Federation buzzed with the usual cacophony of 1,000 different species communicating in their native tongues, all seamlessly translated by the neural implants every diplomat wore. High Counselor Zextarian, a towering insectoid with iridescent carapace that changed colors with his moods, currently displayed a bored shade of muted gray as he surveyed the gathered representatives. Let us proceed to item 73 on today's agenda. Zextarian clicked, mandibles twitching impatiently. The annual assessment of pre-contact species. The hall's excitement level dropped noticeably. This was routine bureaucracy at its dullest, reviewing primitive species that hadn't yet achieved faster-than-light travel, the basic requirement for Federation contact and recognition. A small, nervous-looking avian being fluttered up to the central podium. Science Director Kripik adjusted her spectacles with a wingtip before activating her presentation. Distinguished representatives, she began, voice surprisingly melodious for a creature with a beak. I bring concerning news regarding monitoring station Sol 3 Earth. A few representatives perked up at this. Earth was something of a curiosity in Federation records, a violent but culturally rich world that had been under observation for centuries. The humans were classified as a Category C species, technologically advancing but politically unstable, and deemed at least a century away from achieving unified planetary governance, let alone FTL travel. Our routine scans detected unusual dark matter fluctuations in the Kuiper Belt region of the Sol system approximately 60 rotations ago. Kripik continued. Initially, we attributed this to sensor malfunction, as the readings suggested experimental warp field technology far beyond Earth's capabilities. High Counselor Zextarian's carapace shifted slightly toward a skeptical yellow. Science Director, perhaps your equipment needs calibration. The last assessment clearly showed the humans still arguing about the efficacy of fossil fuels. This generated polite laughter throughout the hall. With respect, High Counselor, Kripik continued, her feathers ruffling slightly, we replaced the equipment and doubled our monitoring efforts. 3 days ago, we lost contact with our entire Sol system observation network. The laughter died instantly. Lost contact, rumbled Ambassador Gronth of the silicon-based Litharians. Equipment failure. Negative, Kripik responded, her wingtips trembling slightly as she manipulated the holographic display. Our last received telemetry shows this. The massive display above the assembly showed grainy footage of a sleek vessel unlike any Federation design approaching one of the cloaked monitoring satellites orbiting Jupiter. The vessel was angular, utilitarian, with exposed heat sinks and what appeared to be primitive nuclear propulsion systems, yet it moved with impossible precision. This cannot be human technology, scoffed Delegate Folar of the Aquatic Mer Collective. Their spacecraft are bulky, inefficient things barely capable of reaching their own moon. That was true 30 years ago, Kripik agreed. But we've been less attentive to Earth recently. Budget cuts to the pre-contact monitoring division meant we reduced active surveillance and relied on automated systems. How less attentive? Zextarian's carapace was now shifting toward an alarmed orange. Kripik's feathers flattened in embarrassment. The last comprehensive report was filed 27 standard years ago. The hall erupted in shocked murmurs. 27 years. They're just humans, sputtered Ambassador Gronth. How much could they advance in such a brief? A junior aide rushed to Zextarian's side, urgently whispering something that caused the High Counselor's carapace to flash a brilliant danger red that silenced the room instantly. This session is temporarily adjourned, Zextarian announced, his voice unnaturally calm. All council members will proceed immediately to Emergency Chamber Alpha. Within the windowless confines of Emergency Chamber Alpha, 19 of the Federation's highest-ranking officials stared in stunned silence at the tactical display. Admiral Vorlak, the aging military commander of the Federation Defense Force, manipulated the controls with his tentacles, expanding the image. This transmission reached us 6 minutes ago, he growled. It originated from our border outpost in the Arcturus sector. The hologram showed a fleet of vessels, at least 30, arranged in a perfect geometric formation outside the Federation's territorial boundary marker. The ships were clearly of the same design philosophy as the vessel from the Jupiter footage, but vastly larger. They were unmistakably warships, their hulls bristling with what appeared to be weapons systems, though of unfamiliar design. "Are we certain these are human vessels?" asked Minister Lick softly, her crystalline form refracting light in patterns of distress. "Their transponder codes are unlike anything in our database," Admiral Vorlak admitted, "but the ships bear markings in human English script. Our linguists have translated them as United Earth Defense Force." "Impossible," whispered Science Director Kripik. "The technological leap required, from primitive chemical rockets to an interstellar battle fleet in less than 3 decades. Yet here we are," Zexterian said grimly. "The question is, what do they want?" As if in answer, the tactical display chimed. "Incoming transmission from the unidentified fleet," announced the automated system. "Put it through," ordered Zexterian. The holographic display shifted, and a human face appeared. Female, middle-aged by human standards, with dark skin, close-cropped silver hair, and eyes that reflected both intelligence and uncompromising resolve. She wore a uniform of deep blue with silver insignia that none of the Federation officials recognized. "This is Admiral Helena Chen of the United Earth Defense Force," she announced without preamble, her voice calm and measured. "I represent the unified government of Earth and its colonies. We are aware of your long-term surveillance of our planet and request immediate diplomatic contact at the highest level. We come in peace, but we will not be dismissed." Silence gripped the chamber as the transmission ended. "They've been watching us watch them," murmured Minister Lix. Admiral Vorlak's tentacles were writhing with agitation. "High Counselor, we should mobilize the Fifth Fleet as a precaution. Those vessels are clearly armed." "And what message would that send?" countered Ambassador Tikelos of the telepathic Mindari. "If they wanted conflict, why announce themselves and request diplomatic contact?" "Because they're confident," suggested Gronth bluntly. "Those ships wouldn't be here unless they believed they could handle whatever we might throw at them." Zexterian's carapace had settled into a thoughtful purple. "We need more information. Science Director, how could we have missed this level of advancement?" Kripik spread her wings in a gesture of helplessness. Budget constraints led to automated monitoring. Our algorithms were programmed to flag significant technological developments. But they were based on expected progression patterns, completed Admiral Vorlak bitterly. No one programmed them to look for an unprecedented technological leap. Or perhaps, Tikelos suggested quietly, they found one of our monitoring satellites. The implication hung heavily in the air. Federation law strictly prohibited interference with pre-contact species, but observation was permitted, even encouraged, to assess readiness for eventual first contact. If humans had discovered they were being watched, we should have conducted a proper assessment before they reached this stage, Zexterian said finally. Now we must deal with the consequences. Admiral, maintain alert status, but do not deploy additional forces. Ambassador Tikelos, prepare a diplomatic reception. I will respond personally to their communication. What will you tell them? Asked Lix. Zexterian's carapace shimmered briefly with multiple colors before settling on a determined blue. The truth. It appears we have underestimated humanity. It would be unwise to continue doing so. 10 hours later, the diplomatic reception chamber aboard Federation Station Arcturus was prepared for first contact. An honor guard of a dozen species lined the docking corridor, representing the diversity of the Federation. High Counselor Zexterian, flanked by Tikelos and Admiral Vorlak, waited at the end of the processional path. The airlock cycled open. Admiral Helena Chen led the human delegation, flanked by 4 officers and what appeared to be diplomatic staff. They walked with purpose but without aggression, their expressions neutral but alert. High Counselor Zextarian. Chen greeted, offering a precise Federation diplomatic bow that took the aliens by surprise. On behalf of United Earth, I thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Admiral Chen. Zextarian responded, his translator rendering his clicks and chirps into standard human English. The Federation welcomes you, though we admit to being unprepared for your arrival. A small smile touched Chen's lips. Yes, we gathered that. Your observation protocols became rather lax in recent decades. Takalos stepped forward. If I may, Admiral, how did Earth advance so rapidly? Our last comprehensive analysis showed you were at least a century from achieving FTL capability. Chen's expression hardened slightly. 28 years ago, one of your observation satellites experienced a malfunction during a solar storm and crashed in the Gobi Desert. We recovered it before your retrieval protocols activated. A ripple of discomfort passed through the Federation representatives. The technology was alien, but the scientific principles were decipherable. Chen continued. More importantly, it contained historical records of hundreds of other spacefaring civilizations. We learned that we were being watched, and that we were being deliberately kept in the dark. The Federation has strict non-interference protocols, Vorlak defended. Pre-contact species must develop naturally. So we gathered, Chen replied evenly. We also discovered your internal classification system. Humans, resourceful but dangerously aggressive, and politically fractious. Recommendation: extended observation period, minimum 1 century before considering contact. Zextarian's carapace flickered with embarrassment. Our assessments are not intended to be condescending. Chen supplied. Perhaps not. But they had consequences. Earth united faster than your models predicted because we had a common purpose, to determine our own place in the galaxy, not one assigned to us. And now, Tikalos asked softly, what does Earth want from this meeting? Admiral Chen's expression softened slightly. The same thing any sentient species wants. Ambassador, recognition, respect, and the opportunity to join galactic society as equals, not as primitives to be pitied or problems to be managed. Zextarian studied the human delegation carefully. His species had evolved to read threats and opportunities across thousands of alien physiologies. What he saw in these humans was not conquest or aggression, but determination. They had come too far to be dismissed. Admiral Chen, he said finally, I believe we have much to discuss. The negotiation table. The grand negotiation chamber aboard Federation Station Arcturus had been hastily retrofitted to accommodate human physiological needs. Environmental controls adjusted oxygen levels and gravity to Earth standard, while the seating, originally designed for the diverse anatomies of 24 regular Federation species, now included chairs suitable for human posture. 3 days had passed since the initial contact, and the diplomatic dance had begun in earnest. Let me understand this correctly, said Federation Trade Minister Xorlu, his gelatinous form pulsing with skepticism. Earth claims the right to establish colonies in 7 star systems adjacent to your home system, despite having no historical claim to these territories. Admiral Chen, now serving as Earth's interim ambassador, maintained her composure. We claim no territories beyond those we have already established. These are not claims but notifications. Earth has maintained functioning research outposts in these systems for over a decade. The revelation sent another shockwave through the Federation representatives. Science Director Kripik's feathers stood on end. Impossible. Our monitoring networks would have detected. Your monitoring networks, interrupted Dr. Aisha Okafor, Earth's chief scientist, rely on detecting warp signatures and subspace distortions. Our early FTL technology used principles derived from your crashed satellite, but we quickly developed our own approach based on quantum tunneling. It leaves no subspace wake for your sensors to detect. Xorlu's gelatinous form rippled with agitation. You deliberately concealed your activities. We exercised caution, Chen corrected firmly. Earth had discovered it was being monitored by an advanced alien federation that had deliberately chosen not to contact us. Wouldn't you have proceeded with caution? High Counselor Zexterian's carapace had settled into a thoughtful blue. A fair point, Admiral. Nevertheless, the Federation has established protocols for emerging space-faring civilizations. These exist for good reason: to prevent conflicts, misunderstandings, and the misuse of advanced technologies. Protocols created without our input or consent, Chen noted. But we're not here to debate the past. Earth seeks formal recognition and a path to Federation membership. Ambassador Tekelos leaned forward. If I may, there are practical concerns. Federation membership requires technological compatibility, legal harmonization, and cultural exchange programs. These typically take decades to implement. We've studied your requirements, responded Chen, nodding to her diplomatic officer, who distributed data tablets to the Federation representatives. Earth has prepared comprehensive proposals for each area. As the Federation officials reviewed the documents, expressions of surprise rippled through the gathering. The human proposals were thorough, addressing everything from technological standards to legal frameworks with a depth of understanding that should have been impossible for a newly contacted species. This is most unusual, Zexterian admitted. Your understanding of our systems exceeds what should be possible from examining a single observation satellite. A slight smile touched Chen's lips. High Counselor, with respect, that satellite contained detailed records of Federation protocols dating back 3 centuries. Earth has had 28 years to study them. We've done our homework. Admiral Vorlak, who had remained silent through much of the proceedings, suddenly interjected. What I find most concerning is the military capacity you've demonstrated. A species that develops from chemical rockets to an interstellar battle fleet in 3 decades represents a significant security variable. Chen turned to face the military leader directly. Our defensive capabilities developed in parallel with our exploratory ambitions. Admiral, the universe is vast and unknown. Would you have ventured into it unarmed? The Federation guarantees the security of its members, Vorlak replied stiffly. A guarantee we couldn't rely on until formal recognition, Chen countered. But if it eases concerns, we're prepared to integrate our defense protocols with Federation standards as part of any agreement. Zexterian's carapace shifted to a diplomatic purple. These discussions have been productive, but much remains to be resolved. I propose we establish working groups to address specific aspects of Earth's integration. Chen nodded her agreement, but before she could respond, the chamber's alert system activated with a piercing tone. Admiral Vorlak immediately accessed his command interface. Multiple unauthorized vessels have dropped out of FTL near the station, he reported grimly. They're jamming communications with the rest of the Federation fleet. The tactical display above the table activated, showing 3 warships of Valkyrie design, a militaristic species known for their isolationist policies and opposition to expanding Federation membership. The Valkyrie Supreme Command does not recognize human legitimacy, came a harsh transmission. We will not permit primitives to upset the balance of power. Withdraw your vessels or face consequences. The Federation officials exchanged alarmed glances. The Valkyrie were full Federation members, but had increasingly opposed progressive policies in recent years. This unauthorized military action was unprecedented. This is outrageous, sputtered Zexterian. They have no authority to. The station shuddered as warning shots from the Valkyrie vessels struck its shields. Shields at 80%, reported a Federation officer. Our defense systems are responding, but the Valkyrie vessels outgun the station's capabilities. Admiral Chen rose calmly. High Counselor, with your permission, Earth can assist. How? Demanded Vorlak. Your vessels are outside the jamming perimeter. You can't communicate with them. Chen smiled thinly and tapped a small device on her wrist. We don't need to. Earth vessels don't rely on standard subspace communications. Within moments, the tactical display showed the Earth fleet moving with perfect coordination, splitting into 3 task forces that approached the Valkyrie vessels from multiple vectors. Impossible, whispered Vorlak. No fleet can maintain that level of synchronized movement without central command. Quantum entanglement communications, explained Dr. Okafor, instantaneous and impossible to jam or intercept. The Federation representatives watched in stunned silence as the Earth vessels executed a flawless containment maneuver, surrounding the Valkyrie ships without firing a single shot. The precision was unnerving. Each human vessel maintained perfect position despite the Valkyrie attempts to break formation. Valkyrie vessels, Chen spoke into her communicator. This is Admiral Helena Chen of Earth. Your actions constitute an unprovoked attack against a diplomatic mission. Power down your weapons or we will be forced to respond. Primitive humans do not give orders to the Valkyrie, came the snarled reply. One of the Valkyrie ships pivoted, bringing its main weapon array to bear on the Federation station. What happened next occurred so quickly that many of the observers couldn't process it. Microseconds before the Valkyrie weapons fired, pinpoint energy pulses from 3 Earth vessels struck the weapon emplacements with surgical precision. The Valkyrie ship's weapons went dark, but the vessel itself remained undamaged. As you can see, Chen said calmly, we could have destroyed your vessel but chose precision instead. This is your final warning. The standoff lasted 30 tense seconds before the Valkyrie vessels powered down their remaining weapon systems. This is not over, came the final transmission before the Valkyrie ships retreated, escorted by a contingent of Earth vessels. In the silence that followed, Federation officials stared at the human delegation with new eyes. Admiral Vorlak was the first to speak. Your weapons technology, that level of precision is a reflection of our values, Admiral, Chen replied. Earth has had its share of wars and conflicts. We've learned that the true measure of power is not the ability to destroy, but the discipline to avoid destruction when alternatives exist. Zexterian's carapace had shifted to a deep, respectful blue. I believe, Admiral Chen, that the Federation has much to learn from Earth. Perhaps more than we initially realized. Just as we have much to learn from you, Chen responded diplomatically. This incident demonstrates why cooperation is preferable to isolation. The galaxy faces challenges that no single species can address alone. Tekilos nodded thoughtfully. The Valkyrie action, while regrettable, may have demonstrated more clearly than any negotiations could why Earth deserves recognition. Then let us proceed on that understanding, Zexterian declared. I will personally sponsor Earth's application for Federation recognition, with an accelerated path to full membership. Chen bowed slightly. Earth is honored, High Counselor. We look forward to a productive partnership. 6 months later, the formal induction ceremony took place in the Grand Assembly Hall. Representatives from 742 Federation species gathered to witness a historic moment, the fastest recognition of a new spacefaring civilization in Federation history. Admiral Helena Chen, now officially appointed as Earth's ambassador, stood on the central podium beside High Counselor Zexterian. Behind them, a mixed honor guard of Federation species and human officers symbolized the new partnership. Distinguished representatives, Zexterian addressed the assembly, his carapace a ceremonial gold. Today marks not just the admission of a new member, but an acknowledgement of our own limitations. The Federation was founded on principles of diversity, mutual respect, and the sharing of knowledge. Yet in our established patterns of thought, we failed to recognize the unique potential of humanity. He turned to Chen. Humans advance not despite their differences, but because of them. Their history of competition and cooperation, conflict and reconciliation, has created a resilience and adaptability that we would do well to study. The rapid pace of their development, once viewed with alarm, now stands as evidence of what is possible when different perspectives unite toward common goals. Ambassador Chen stepped forward. On behalf of Earth and all human colonies, I thank the Federation for this recognition. Humanity's journey to the stars has been guided by both our dreams and our determinations. We have faced our own demons and learned from them. We come to the Federation not as conquerors or supplicants, but as partners in the greatest adventure of all, exploring not just the universe around us, but the potential within all sentient life. As the ceremony concluded and the two leaders sealed the agreement, a quiet conversation took place in the back of the chamber between Science Director Kripik and Ambassador Tikalos. "Do you realize," Kripik whispered, "that if we hadn't lost that satellite, if humans hadn't discovered they were being washed, we might have continued ignoring them for decades?" Tikalos nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps the greatest test of wisdom is recognizing when your assumptions have been proven wrong. We said, they're just humans, as if that explained everything we needed to know." "And now?" Kripik asked. Tikalos watched as Chen engaged with delegates from a dozen worlds, her presence commanding respect without demanding it. "Now we understand that human wasn't a limitation. It was a potential we failed to recognize." "Let us hope," Kripik replied, "that we don't make the same mistake with the next species we encounter." Behind them, the massive display showed Earth's fleet and Federation vessels beginning joint maneuvers, the first step in an integration process that would reshape galactic politics for centuries to come. The age of human isolation was over. A new chapter in galactic history had begun, and no one would ever again make the mistake of dismissing Earth by saying, "They're just humans."